back to BRMC's Healthy Connections. I'm Karen McKaig, and I'm sitting here chatting with George Truell, Executive Director of Kindness Inc. And thanks again for being here, George.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Explain a little bit what respite care is, because that's kind of a term that a lot of people may not really understand.
Sure. In our case, and it varies with each organization, but in our case, it's just an opportunity for a caregiver who is there 24 hours, 7 days a week, taking care of somebody. It gives them a 3-hour window where they can, leave those responsibilities. One of our volunteers will stay with the client, and they can go out and, in some cases, they need to go to a doctor's appointment themselves, or they need to get a haircut, or go to the beauty salon, or do grocery shopping.
Or just take a break.
Just take a break, yeah.
And so is 3 hours the time
Right.
maximum?
Correct.
Okay. Is 3 hours the time maximum for anything, the transport and appointments? Or
No, it's not really, and I'm glad you touched on that. For instance, one of the ongoing things we do is bring people to dialysis. We average 15 appointments a month that we take people to.
Wow, that's important too.
It's very important, and in those scenarios, we're able to, with the volunteers we have somebody bring the client to the appointment. And as you know, the appointment can last several hours. And in many cases, we have a second volunteer bring them home.
Okay.
So the assignments vary. For instance, I'll probably take maybe 4 assignments a month because I enjoy it. I enjoy meeting the different clients. And in some cases, I'll wait in the waiting room while somebody's in seeing the doctor.
Okay.
It's pretty much assumed that if somebody's going to a doctor, they need a stop on the way home to pick up a prescription they may have just been prescribed. So we'll stop and do that. Most volunteer assignments take an hour perhaps.
Okay.
And it's very easy for the volunteer. I do want to stress that we've got about 70 active volunteers right now, which is wonderful. But as I mentioned, our volunteers become clients over time. And we need to grow our volunteer base. As it stands right now, probably 2-3 times a month, we're unable to fill a request.
Is that right? Okay.
Because we don't have enough volunteers. And our volunteers, we make it very easy, very flexible for them. We have volunteers that will take 1 assignment a month.
Okay.
And we have other volunteers that will take 3-4 a week.
And are they pre-scheduled, or is it a case?
They're not.
They're not. Okay.
They're not. As volunteers come in, one of the things we're able to offer as a volunteer experience is that you can set your own hours.
Okay.
And even further, that doesn't mean by setting your hours that you are locked in from Friday afternoon 1 to 4. You're on call. That's not the case. Our volunteers are contacted usually 2 days in advance.
Okay.
And asked, hey, I have an assignment. I have a client that needs to go to Dr. So-and-so.
Okay.
Are you available? And we encourage our volunteers to not... One of the things you can do very easily, because people are so giving, is you can burn out volunteers. So we encourage them, take a break or say no, because I don't want to lose a volunteer over the fact that, I'm overusing them.
Yes.
And so as they come in, they say, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
I want to drive, or I want to work in the office, or I'd like to make reassurance calls. And there's a variety of things. Or I'd like to learn how to build ramps, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So they indicate what they want to do. They indicate the area that they're willing to do it in.
Okay.
For instance, if you live in Mountain Home, you're not perhaps willing to go out to some location in Marion County on a regular basis. So some of them will actually kind of indicate I'm willing to pick up clients within a 15-mile circle of my home.
Okay.
And that works out well for us. And they indicate I'm not available, don't even call me for an assignment, in the mornings.
Okay.
I only do it in the afternoon. But then again, we like I said, we encourage them, if it's not going to work, if you got other plans, tell us no.
Yes.
And we'll find somebody.
Now, is it one office for Baxter and Marion County?
It is.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
All right. let's talk about if somebody wants to volunteer. What kind of training do they go through?
Well, we put them through an orientation.
Okay.
And the majority of what they're going to be doing is just being a friend.
Okay.
I know that sounds very simple. But at the same time, we also want to let them know some things to be aware of that we want them to avoid. Obviously, we don't want them to give medical attention. They're not medically qualified.
Correct.
We don't want them to go outside of the scope of what our volunteers do. We want them to say, I don't feel comfortable doing that. We want them as much as possible, and this is sometimes a challenge, but we also want them to protect their privacy.
Yes.
And so we will talk about our volunteers by using their first name only.
Okay.
We don't give out their phone number. Clients don't know how to reach them. We ask them to, there's a process we teach them how they can make a call and their phone number won't show up on caller ID.
Okay.
Because I don't want a client to become dependent to call a volunteer on a Saturday or a Sunday or late at night or too many times. We want our clients to interact with our office.
Right.
We'll interact with the clients. We ask the clients to call, we ask the volunteers to call the clients.
Right.
To say, I'm George, I'm going to be picking you up tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I understand your appointment's at 10:30. I've got a white car, et cetera, and we all wear our lanyards with our name badges that we're familiar. And the training we do is similar to that.
Okay.
How to deal with certain things. If you imagine the organization's motto, it's probably best described as neighbors helping neighbors. Because you and I would do that without a second thought.
Yes.
If we had an elderly neighbor and we were going to Harps or Town and Country, we would say, can I pick you up anything? Wouldn't think anything of it.
Yes, or just checking on them, or it is very much like a neighbor helping neighbor.
Absolutely.
Giving them a
Absolutely.
ride.
And you've got to remember, too, and you of all people are aware of this because of your background and training, this is a very proud generation.
Yes.
Our seniors right now.
Absolutely.
Very proud, and they don't feel comfortable asking for help.
Yes.
They don't like to ask for help. They try and be independent, and that's great. That's why when we're able to send a volunteer over, it's a very friendly, very comfortable, you don't picture somebody coming from an organization to help you. You picture a friend coming to give you a lift.
That is a great way of looking at that on both sides. Now, if someone wants to learn how to build wheelchair ramps, for example, would you have them work with someone then that knows how to do that?
Exactly. We probably have about 4 or 5 volunteers that love doing it and love teaching it. And it is important because you can build a wheelchair ramp that is functional but perhaps not safe.
Correct. I was going to say that that there are standards, safety
ADA standards.
Yes, and a lot of people don't know that, and and if you hire a contractor to do it, it's going to cost a little bit of money.
Right.
And even just having the grab bars put in the bathroom or things like that, you can hire somebody to do that, but it can get pretty expensive. And you can hope it's built according to standards.
Right.
But I think that that's wonderful and something that I'm very glad to know that you all do that. Now, I know, how many clients do you have right now?
I counted when I started because I wanted to get an idea of what kind of impact we have.
Yes.
And so I took a look at a 2-year period, the 2-year preceding when I started.
Okay.
And we had 600 individual clients over a 2-year period.
For both counties?
For both counties,
wow.
Yeah. It's about 500 of those were in Baxter County and about 100 in Marion County. Now, some of those were clients that we helped with a wheelchair ramp.
Okay.
And so it was a one-time thing.
A one-time thing.
There are others that have needs 4 times a week.
Wow.
So it just varies.
600, that is
yeah.
a huge number.
Well, if you picture it, You know, we have all kinds of wonderful medical options here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're unable to get to the doctor, then the options don't really help you.
Doesn't really matter.
And
You're
so
absolutely right.
a routine visit, if you skip those visits then lead to emergency room visits.
Absolutely. And we can have the best facilities, but if we don't have a way to get the people to engage in them. Now, give your phone number or how people can contact, because you have how many volunteers?
We have 70, and we need to grow that.
You need probably a lot more than 70 for 600 clients. So
Yeah, they can reach us at 425-6475.
425
6475.
And what are the hours that the office is open?
We're open from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And if we're not there, we have answering service or answering machine so people can leave messages.
Okay. All right. And then as far as if someone's interested in your services, give that phone number one more time.
Yeah, it would be 425-6475, and I would encourage call or even stop in. Grab a cup of coffee, talk about what we do. No obligation, the coffee's free.
That's great. Thank you, George, for being with me
thank
today.
you
It was
very
such
much.
a pleasure to know you were going to be on the show. That wraps up our show today, BRMC Healthy Connection, and I have so enjoyed being your host today. Donna will be back next week, so be sure and tune in again to BRMC Healthy Connections.